Guilty, guilty, guilty!
This morning, we're one-on-one with activist attorney Gloria Allred, a tireless advocate for victims of sexual abuse. She represents accusers of Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and countless others. She talks about the culture of sexual harassment and her own personal encounter with rape.
Now, from 42nd and 2nd, this is Pix 11 News Close-Up with Marvin Scott.
Good morning, everyone. The news the past 18 months has been dominated by women accusing men, many of them rich and powerful, of making unwanted sexual advances toward them. The likes of Harvey Weinstein and America's dad, Bill Cosby. They've been disgraced by charges of improper sexual behavior. Now, at the forefront of many of these cases has been crusading attorney Gloria Allred. Her supporters and clients, they hold her in high praise, while her critics call her an opportunist, a media grandstander. This morning, you'll have a chance to make your own judgment as we get to meet Gloria Allred beyond that 30-second soundbite. So good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Marvin.
You've been doing this for 42 years. Yes. You've been the forefront of it. And then over that period of time, the culture, there's been a shift in the culture regarding sexual abuse. What do you attribute to that shift?
Very significant power shift, Marvin, because I call this the age of empowerment of women, where women are refusing to be silent or be silenced by rich, powerful, famous men who have inflicted injustices on them, whether it's rape, sexual assault, child sexual abuse, whatever it is, it's interfered with their employment opportunities, form of sexual harassment in many cases, or even if it's not in the employment area, it has been very harmful to them. And so women have decided they're speaking out. We have the internet now. We have #MeToo. And so there are no more gatekeepers. These are, I think, as Time magazine said, the silence breakers. But I mean, I've been doing this. We're the leading women's rights law firm in the United States for 42 years. We've been bringing women out to make sure that their voices are heard.
Well, what's brought those voices out now after all those years of silence? Is it the social media? What is it that... What was the catalyst for this?
I think it's been building. It's like a wave coming onto the beach, and now it's a tsunami. It's women deciding that the cost of being silent is greater than the cost of speaking out. So they're doing that. And they're not only doing that, though, on the internet. They're doing that in many other ways as well. Many women are calling me. They're reaching out. They want to know what are their legal options. Is it too late because of the statute of limitations, which is that arbitrary time period set by law? Is it too late for them to either file a police report or exercise their rights civilly to file a lawsuit against a sexual predator? Or are they still within that time period? What are the risks? What are the benefits of choosing any of the options? I never tell women, yes, go speak out publicly. What I do say is, here are your risks. Here are your benefits. You make the decision as to what you think is best. And if I can, I will support you. It really depends on the case. But sometimes, and we're doing a lot of confidential settlements as well. I mean, for every one you see speaking out, I probably have done 10 confidential settlements.
High profile names we would recognize?
Very high profile, sometimes even more than one woman against a very high profile person.
And you're not going to share any of that with us, right?
I can't, I won't, and I never will. And lawyers for the big firms and these high profile figures know that they can trust me. If they will do what my client feels is justice to her, then we will keep everything confidential, and that's really important. But that's a form of accountability too. For a woman to receive compensation for her pain and suffering so that she can pay her therapist, so she can pay any medical bills that she's incurred because of his assault on her, that is one form of accountability. There may or may not be accountability in the criminal justice system because it may either be too late there, different statute of limitations, or the DA may decide not to prosecute because the high burden of proof required there. But this is a form of justice.
Gloria, was a watershed moment? Was it the Bill Cosby case or the revelations about Harvey Weinstein that really opened the floodgate to this whole thing?
Well, as I say, I think it's been building, Marvin, over time. but certainly the numerous allegations against Harvey Weinstein coming after the 33 women that I represented, and I still do, in the Bill Cosby case, I think it has broken open the doors. And of course, Bill Cosby is going to be sentenced in September.
Convicted on 3 charges of sexual assault.
Yes.
You sat in the court that day.
Yes.
We heard you being guilty, guilty, guilty.
Yeah.
And then you told me afterwards, when I spoke with you then, that you were kind of surprised.
I was.
You were expecting another deadlock.
I was he was convicted of 3 felony counts of aggravated indecent sexual assault. He's going to face sentencing. He could receive up to 30 years. I don't think he'll receive 30 years. The real question is he going to be taken into custody and incarcerated? If so, for what length of time? Many of the victims, I represented 3 of what we call the prior bad act witnesses who testified at this criminal trial, the second one. And I think they were very important to the jury. And I believe that they will also be giving their victim impact.
Why were you so surprised that the verdict? You said you
I was.
Be a deadlock again.
I've had such low expectations, especially for the criminal justice system, because such a high burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, is what a jury must find. But the question is, are they going to believe women? Are they going to believe the victim? Are they going to believe the other witnesses who testified to what we call an MO, a modus operandi? And you know, was there an absence of mistake? They also testified to that. I mean, if in fact a defendant is intentionally drugging and then sexually assaulting women, then that defendant, in this case Mr. Cosby, could not have been mistaken about whether Andrea Constant consented, because if he is intentionally drugging women, then he knows they can't consent to sexual assault.
Now, you talk about not believing women. That's been part of the problem over the years.
Yes,
right?
and thank God this jury believed women.
But not believing women, but also women afraid to come forward because how it would impact them personally and professionally. Isn't that been the existent problem?
Well, that is one of the major problems that you rightly point out, Marvin, that for many victims, they felt they were concerned about victim shaming, victim blaming. Why did you wear whatever you wore? Why were you in that place at that time? Why did you go into his home or his apartment? You know, I think we're seeing an evolution now where, you know, the public is saying, well, wait a minute. It doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't matter when you were there. No one has a right to sexually abuse you. No one has a right to have that intimate conduct, sexual conduct with you without your consent.
I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask, what about women who use this as a vindictive and they use it as a weapon, and then those charges are found to be erroneous when they charges against men and they destroy their careers? I want to pick up on that. Stay with us as we continue our conversation with activist attorney Gloria Allred. We'll be right back. Back now with activist feminist attorney Gloria Allred. I want to talk about, you've covered so many high-profile cases, you've won convictions, but I want to ask you about so many cases where women have falsely accused men of sexual misconduct and later found to be erroneous. How do you deal with cases like that? What do you say to these men whose careers and lives have been destroyed?
Well, I'm not a prosecutor, so I don't handle those cases, but I do represent individuals, victims in civil cases, and sometimes also as a victims' rights advocate in the criminal cases. So what I would say is the statistics show, Marvin, that many, many rape victims never even go to the police. So meritorious cases are never even presented to the police or the district attorney for a whole variety of reasons, some of which I just described earlier. But as to, you know, any acquittal, for example, in a criminal case, it's a high burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So obviously a prosecutor is not going to be able to win a conviction in every case, but most prosecutors, if they bring a case, the majority, if not 80 to 90%, are going to end in a conviction.
Right. Gloria, you're known, you defend women. I
represent them, right.
In legitimate cases
yes,
that have proved to be legitimate. I'm talking about cases where men have been wrongly, what about lacrosse? The lacrosse team wrongly accused of rape, and
Okay.
those boys, and you have the
Well,
case
I didn't
to-
represent any
no,
victim in that case, so I don't have any comment on that. But
I'm
all
just
I
talking
can
in general about cases
Okay, well,
about
let me-
women who use the vindictiveness and use it as a weapon.
Okay, I don't have any evidence that somebody that I represented
Right.
used vindictiveness as a weapon. That's not true in most cases. Of course, there are going to be some women who are not truthful. Most are, because most are reluctant to even talk about it if they have been raped or sexually assaulted or abused or harassed. So that's a
It
very...
has to distress you.
That's well, I mean, I always want everybody to be truthful in a court of law, particularly when they take the oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God. And most people are.
Have you ever
And
represented?
of course, there are men who have denied sexually assaulting and raping women who are also lying about that when they deny it. So let's also focus on the fact that not all men are truthful when they deny allegations against them.
Have you ever represented men with charges against women?
I don't know what you mean by charges against
I mean,
women.
who have claimed to have been victims of sexual assault.
Yes, we
by
had a
women.
very famous case some years ago where we represented a man who alleged that he was sexually harassed in his workplace, actually at Vaughn's grocery stores, and that he was retaliated against on account of his protesting the sexual harassment by his woman boss. We took that to a jury trial. We won. The jury found that he was not sexually harassed, but that he was retaliated against because he protested what he had a reasonable belief to be sexual harassment, and awarded our client $16 million. So yes, we do represent men who have been victims of sexual harassment. We represented a man many years earlier who was sexually harassed by another man on the job, and that was even before the U.S. Supreme Court said, you can do that, you can file a suit on behalf of a man against another man. And I think that jury verdict was $5 million for our client who was sexually harassed. So really, it doesn't matter whether the victim is a man or a woman. It can be same-sex sexual harassment, it can be opposite-sex sexual harassment, it can be two women, it can be two men, it doesn't matter. We represent them if we can, if that person is a victim of sexual harassment or even rape.
Whenever we hear a charge of sexual harassment, we know sooner or later we're going to see Gloria Allred at a press conference. And we know you're heading to a press conference right after this broadcast is taped today. You're representing cheerleaders from the Houston Texans.
Yes.
And what's that case?
Former cheerleaders for the Houston Texans. And Marvin, they had to compete against 1,000 other women in order to be selected as a Houston Texans NFL cheerleader. So many of these women are athletes, they're dancers, and guess what they find out when they're selected, and then they are presented with a contract. They get minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, and then they don't get paid for all of the hours that they work. And, you know, that's really unfair. These women are being exploited. These women should be paid more, consistent with their abilities and their value to this brand, the NFL brand. They bring in an income stream for the NFL that is really important. I mean, for example, sometimes their photos are appearing on calendars. They don't make any profit at all. They don't get paid for that except that minimum wage. Sometimes their faces are put on coffee mugs. That they don't also get paid for except as to this minimum wage. We've got NFL players making millions. We've got franchise owners making billions. We think that this group that is completely composed of women, as opposed to NFL players completely composed of men, should be treated fairly. They should get a living wage. They should be paid for all of the time. And so, yes, I have a press conference planned, and we have filed a lawsuit against the Houston Texans. I've called on NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell to get involved in this issue. I've delivered a letter to him. He's responded. I don't think that his response is sufficient, and he's going to know that from me. But what I'm saying is this: It's time to treat women in the workplace fairly and provide them with a living wage and stop exploiting them. We're not saying they are the same as NFL football players, but we are saying they bring entertainment value, and it's time to treat them fairly.
Now, in your press release about this, you say that some of these former cheerleaders were ordered to have duct tape put on their body?
One of our clients, and we filed an amended lawsuit, she was very fit, okay? But she was called skinny fat by someone at the NFL, and they decided before she could go out on the field for the game that she had to be duct taped. They duct taped her body. I'm talking about right on her skin. And she had to go out and cheer like that, of course with clothes over it. But you know how painful that is? You have duct tape right on your skin and then have to jump up and down and dance, and with that duct tape moving your skin around. That was painful. She did it. That is wrong. Nobody should have to fit into that sexual stereotype of what fit looks like just in order to cheer for the Houston Texans or any other team. By the way, she was very beautiful and fit without that duct tape.
We got to take a break. When we come back, you get another high-profile case against a gynecologist at the University of Southern California. And also want to hear about something that happened to you, your own sexual encounter that may have directed your direction as an attorney.
Okay.
We'll continue our conversation with Gloria Allred when Pix 11 News Close-Up continues. When there are sexual abuse charges, you're more than likely to see Gloria Allred, the activist attorney. She's there representing the accuser, and we're delighted to have you on Pix 11 News Close-Up. We were talking before about the case involving the former cheerleaders, but you're also representing right now another case, the University of Southern California gynecologist, which seems to be explosive.
Yes, I'm representing many. I think the number is now up to about 28. Accusers, alleged victims of USC, University of Southern California gynecologist, Dr. Tyndall. And they are among hundreds who are making accusations against Dr. Tyndall because they allege that while they were USC students, Marvin, and they went there, some of them for their very first gynecological exam ever. And by the way, as women, generally we don't look forward to that gynecological exam, but we know it's necessary, so we go. So they go. And some of them allege that he put his fingers inside of their vaginal area without gloves on, moved them around, took photos of them, some of them full body naked, and also that he did other things that they allege were sexually inappropriate. Some of them didn't know was inappropriate at the time as their first exam ever. They didn't know what a gynecologist was supposed to do. But some of them also allege that he, asked them inappropriate questions about their sex lives and made comments that they believe were racial stereotypes about perhaps one race being better at sex than others, mentioning whether their boyfriends would enjoy having sex with them. It really is a huge scandal. And the worst part is that we have reason to believe, and we have declarations to support, that USC was told about these allegations of inappropriate conduct by Dr. Tyndall way back in the 90s, and still he was allowed to continue and to examine and treat thousands of young students at USC. So this is now broken open. USC has apologized. They said there were reporting concerns or errors. We say it's time to take care of these victims and compensate them. Los Angeles Police Department is investigating. There's also an independent investigation at USC, but we want to make sure our focus remains on the victims and that they are taken care of and properly compensated.
Keeping you quite busy.
Yes.
I have to ask you this. Now, while you win high praise from those who you support and who you defend, you have your share of critics. They say that many of your cases are fueled by self-promotion, that you're a grandstander, an opportunist. And how would you respond to that?
Well, I plead guilty to thinking women should have a voice and that they matter. It's not just the voices of celebrities, the rich and the powerful and the famous men or women who should be heard. People who are typical people who are victimized, their voices also should be heard. And that's how we have an impact on the climate of opinion, on being able to change laws as we did, eliminating the statute of limitations for criminal prosecution of rape and sexual assault in California. This is how we improve the condition and the status and the rights of women. So yes, I plead guilty to helping women to be heard. Not just me, but the women you've never heard of before. Those voices matter, and I will continue to help them to have a voice.
But you're always in the forefront. Do you coach?
Well, I'm there to support them.
You coach them what to say?
I'm there to help them to understand that what is important and what they say. And
coaching?
I wouldn't call it coaching. I would say helping them. I take a diamond and I help to shine it up. They write their own statements.
We generally get your soundbite.
No, we hear theirs, and what they have to say matters. And so I may give them suggestions, but it's their voice. And I think when you hear them say it, you understand how authentic it is to them. And, let's not underestimate women. They know what happened to them. They know their own life experience, and that's what they're presenting.
Gloria, I have to ask you this. I mean, you've been to the forefront here. 42 years you're practicing law, defending so many cases. But you yourself were impacted by a sexual encounter many years ago, back in the 60s.
Yes, I was.
And how did that impact you?
Well, a great question. I was a victim of gender violence.
You were raped?
When I was in my 20s and went to Mexico, went on a date, and was with a medical doctor. He said he had to stop at a hospital first to see some patients. I said, fine, I went with him. And then he said, well, now I have to see some of my patients that are no longer in the hospital, and then we can go to dinner. So then we go to a hotel and to allegedly see a patient, opens the door, there's nobody in there. He brings out a gun and then rapes me. So I still don't understand to this day why he would do that. I talk a little bit about that in the Netflix documentary that's now streaming on Netflix about me, called Seeing All Red, and I hope that everybody sees it, because then they can understand more about why I do what I do. But what I'm saying is that did have an impact on my life, because it's because of my own life experience. That and having to get an abortion when it was illegal for a doctor to provide one, but not illegal for a woman to get one. And so I, like many other women, almost bled to death from, as someone who was not a licensed healthcare provider who provided it. So this is why I'm so dedicated to making sure that we continue to have, in this country, safe, legal, available, affordable abortions for women. We don't want our daughters to suffer what so many of us did, and some died from the infections from illegal abortion. So what we're saying is, yes, I'm a feminist. Many other women are feminists because of our own life experience. Not because of a course we ever had, because I never had a course in women's rights. I wish I had. But this is why. And, we have another saying in the women's movement that, the women's movement is unique. It's the only movement in which the participants become more radical as they get older. And I say that's because of their life experience. But I encourage young women, all women, do what Gandhi said. Be the change you wish to see in the world, and we're going to make it a better world for all of our daughters.
Sounds like you got a lot more fight in you, Gloria.
I'm young. I'm going for it, okay? I'm going to be 77 in a couple of weeks. And I can tell you, Marvin, fighting injustice is very good for the health. I get up every day. Thank God I've not had any aches, pains, or been sick for nobody can remember when. And I just want to keep fighting for justice for women and minorities.
While you fight, we got to see another side of you Thursday night at the New York Friars Club. I think I have a picture of you up there.
Wow.
You got roasted. You're one of 7 women ever roasted by the Friars Club. And we saw a sense of humor. We saw a totally different side of you. There you are.
I had such great fun at the Friars Club, and very honored to be roasted by the Friars Club. As everybody knows, I fought to for the Friars Club to allow women to be members. I'm the first woman member of the Beverly Hills Friars Club, and I fought against the club in New York. Everything is wonderful today. Everybody's very cordial. We have women members, and we have a great time there.
And it was great fun, and it was great to hear you tell some jokes. It was a wonderful night indeed.
Thank you, Marvin.
Gloria,
thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for joining us. And that'll do it for our program this week. If you have any comments or wish to see this broadcast again, log on to our website at pix11.com/newscloseup. Join us next week when we'll revisit the Catskills, the one summer resort now gambling on a rebirth with a new casino. I'm Marvin Scott. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate it.